Hey everyone, it's Hawk, and today I'm going to be doing a tier list of the Northern Dùnedain units from Divide and Conquer, which, for those of you that do not know, Divide and Conquer is a sub-mod for Third Age Total War, which is a mod for Medieval 2 Total War. And I'm just going to do this because I think it'll be fun, and people can talk about it. I'll try to do it for all 26 factions, if you disagree with my tier list, then I'll post the tier list link in the description, and you can do your own, and it'll be cool. So first, I'm just going to start off by talking about what my criteria is, and then sort of what the tiers mean to me. So it's not like, oh my god, why did you put this unit in this tier? Just so you can know where I'm coming from. So basically, obviously, I'm going to be taking in unit stats and like how good the unit is first and foremost. But there's a little bit of a caveat to that, and it's going to be how good the unit is for when you get it, and like how frequently you can get it is going to be a big part of that. So, for example, lower tier units obviously are overall not as good. But if it's a lower tier unit that's really, really useful when you get it, it'll be ranked a lot higher. Whereas a really good unit that you can barely get and, it's only super late in the game, that will be ranked lower because of that. Secondly, I will also be taking in the look of the unit to account because some units are just more fun because they look really, really good. So better looking units will definitely rank higher, and units that I think don't look as good will rank lower because of that. For the tiers, S, obviously, best of the best. Like, they're either best in class or they're insanely useful, and like you absolutely train these every single time you can, and they like look phenomenal. That's S tier. A tier is they're really, really good. It's like that is a great unit, no problems with it. B, pretty good. It's B tier. I would say it's like slightly above average. It's decent. C, kind of mediocre, like a little pretty average. It doesn't stand out of the crowd, but it does its job fine. D means I don't think the unit is particularly good, and yeah, D means I don't think the unit is particularly good, or it really just doesn't look good, and then F means it's just not a good unit. Like, there's no reason to take it unless you need something to garrison your settlement. So without any more adoing, let's get into this. So first of all, we have the Dùnedain Wardens. Oh, I should say I arranged the units by like how early to later you get them in the game. So like all the early tier units that you get is the Northern Dùnedain here, as you can see, are first, and then it gets later and later. I just realized I have two Arthaud Knights. Okay, so just ignore this last one. My bad. Okay, anyway. First, we have the Dùnedain Wardens. Now, as everyone probably knows, the Dùnedain Wardens, pretty good early tier spear unit. They get the job done. They have above average stats. They wipe the floor with everything around them. I think they're a solid B. They're pretty good and they're strong. They're definitely not C. They're definitely above average, but I don't think there's anything that like gets them an A. It's just like, hey, they are a great early tier spearmen. Oh, I should say I took these icons from like straight from the mod files and then converted them with a paint. So that's why some of them are pretty low quality. Like my steel bowmen here look pretty bad, but that's just because I don't know what I'm doing. I just wanted to do this for fun. So these are not like top quality icons. Anyway, Dùnedain Wardens, definitely a B tier. They're good. They're expensive, but they have low upkeep. They get the job done. They will absolutely massacre early tier Angmarum units and Goblin units. They'll hold the line forever, but there's nothing about them that really makes them amazing other than their good stats. And they look decent, they're a nice looking unit. Now, Dùnedain Rangers, the iconic unit of the Northern Dùnedain. Now, the Dùnedain Rangers are definitely an S tier, okay? Dùnedain Rangers, I would honestly be willing to say that the Dùnedain Rangers are the best unit you can get in your early tier on any faction. They have, I think, a 7 missile damage because they're Rangers. They have insanely good range and accuracy because they're Rangers. You can get them super early. They do everything you would want them to do. All the people that you're fighting, the goblins and Angmar in the early game, are not very heavily armored, which means archers just absolutely destroy them. They're iconic. They look great. Dùnedain Rangers are an S tier. I love this unit. They're amazing. If you disagree, then that's unfortunate. Okay, and then Dùnedain Scouts, horse archers. they're pretty just solid horse archers. You know, they are, again, just like the Dùnedain Wardens, they do their job well, and that's about it. They're a good, solid unit. I'd say they're above average, so they're B tier, but they're still an early tier horse archer. They are the only one you can get. Maybe you can get some from Khan, but obviously I'm not going to include the Beacon of Hope units in this video because those are units for other factions. This is Northern Dùnedain units only. So, you know, they're good early tier horse archers that are above average, but nothing special. So they're a solid B tier in my opinion. Then we come on to the Cartellone Sentinels. Now I think this will surprise some people because the Cartellone Sentinels, in my eyes, are an A tier. And here's why. First of all, Cartellone Sentinels look amazing, okay? They have the shield on their back, they have the bow, they have the green with the Gondorian tree and the stars, the whole Cartellone look. They look amazing, okay? That's giving them some bonus points already. They are a phenomenal looking unit. Secondly, they're really good early tier archers. Obviously not as good as the Dùnedain Rangers, but they have a 4 missile attack with average accuracy and like decent range. They're a solid early tier archer, and then when they're done with their bows, they are good early tier infantry. They are much better than like Gondor infantry. They're on par with your Dùnedain Wardens, just a sword and board version. They're really good early tier infantry and pretty good archers. So I'd say they're an amazing early game unit, and Cartellone Sentinels, in my opinion, are an A tier. These are really good units. And we come to the Cartellone Riders. Now, Cartellone Riders, they're not quite as good as the Sentinels, but they're still pretty good. Again, above average early game cavalry. They will be able to run down prisoners. They'll have good solid charges against the weak trash that you're fighting against in the early game. And they don't win any awards other than that. They're decent cavalry, and the Dùnedain have some decent cavalry options later that are going to rank higher than these guys, of course. But they're good, and they look nice. They have the Cartellone look, and I like it. So now, Arthaud Footmen. This one might also surprise some people. Arthaud Footmen, in my eyes, are D tier, okay? They're probably the worst unit that the Northern Dùnedain gets, like, a lot of. And they're not even that bad. I think they're 6-13, 6 attack, 13 defense, just like vanilla without any upgrades or anything, which is pretty solid, but that's worse than your Wardens, worse than your Cartellone Sentinels, better than Gondor infantry, but just compared to what the Northern Dùnedain have, they're so lackluster. And since you can only get them in Arthaud as well, the AOR restriction, they're really not going to be like what's holding down your lines a lot. And either way, I'd still rather have a unit of Wardens. I would rather have Dùnedain Rangers behind those Wardens. I mean, you train them if you can get them. They're decent, but they're just so much worse than the rest of your roster, and they don't look like amazing. I mean, they look great. I like the general aesthetic of the Northern Dùnedain. The Arthaud units look good, but there's nothing that makes them stand out to me. They're just so painfully average compared to everything else that you get, especially considering that they're an AOR. So that's why they're going in D. I really like. I train them and I use them, and it's like, all right, they get the job done, but they're not particularly good. So we're gonna come on to the Dùnedain bodyguard. Dùnedain bodyguard is really good. That is an A tier easily. Obviously, they look great. They are like Dark Rangers or something. They look amazing. They have high melee damage. They are a two-handed axe unit when they're done with their bows. So they're armor piercing with their axes, high attack. Also, they are armor piercing with their bows, which is super rare in this game, and that means they do a ton of damage. A ton of damage. These guys are phenomenal archers, phenomenal in melee. Honestly, the only drawback is that there's only 40 of them, but of course it's a regenerating bodyguard unit. I'm not going to put them in S tier because I think compared to other bodyguards, they're like really good, but not the best of the best. So that's why I'm putting them in A tier. But they're a really, really solid unit, and they will like it's a phenomenal generals unit. All right, so now we've got the Woodland Hunters and the Lumbermen, both of which are not unique to the Northern Dùnedain, but I put them in because you will train, so especially the Woodland Hunters, the Northern Dùnedain will train these guys in the early game. They're really cheap, and they're just cheap supplementary units to round out your otherwise really limited recruitment. So first with the Woodland Hunters, I'm going to put these guys in B tier because they're really good archers. 5 missile attack for an early game archer unit means that they're going to kill a lot of stuff. Now their range is pretty lackluster, but they also have pretty good accuracy. So all right range, but with good accuracy and 5 missile damage, these guys are phenomenal archers. Now, of course, when they're like terrible in like their other stats, so if you get in melee, they're gonna die immediately. If they get shot, they're gonna die immediately. But they can kill so many things, and they're really, really cheap. So I think they're a solid B tier unit. These guys are above average, really good early game unit. Lumbermen, I'm also gonna put as B tier. These guys can also do a ton of damage. Again, really, really poor defensive stats, but they have, I think, a 5 melee attack that's armor piercing, and there's like 200 of them. These guys can carve through armored units. I mean, they really can overperform just because there's so many of them, and 5 AP damage for that cheap of a unit with 200 of them is super, super strong. And they can really destroy stuff as long as they can get a flanking charge, and as long as they're not shot by arrows, in which case they'll die immediately. So I think the Lumbermen are also, for the cost, super, super good and deserving of B tier, above average. Now we come on to the 2 local militia units, the local militia and the local archers. And honestly, I'm going to put both of them in F, okay? They look fine, and I think that they serve a purpose in the game. So I understand why they're here, and I'm not putting them in F because like, oh, they're horrible and they should be gone, because they definitely serve a purpose and they look nice. Just there's really no reason to ever use them. By the time you've gotten somewhere where you're going to want to be training these guys, you're well past the late game, and even if they were an early game unit, they're so mediocre. The local militia, I think, have stats of 312, and then the local archers have a missile attack of 3. So they're just like, they're decent if they were like really early game units, you know, like first tier. That's all right for humans. But just considering when you get them, they're really not that good. These guys are pretty much just like garrison a town kind of units. Like when you need to just torch and burn and move on, you put a unit of local militia in there since you can train them in like your outer lands and move on with your life. I mean, and the same thing with the archer militia. They're not terrible or anything. It's just you're not going to use them in any sort of serious army. All right, now we start getting to our tier 2 units, our tier 2 Dùnedain units. And some of these guys, we're going to start ranking pretty high here, actually, for pretty much the rest of the tier list. So we've got Dùnedain Blade Masters, first of all. Now, Dùnedain Blade Masters, solid A tier, in my opinion. Okay, well, that's okay. Anyway, solid A tier, in my opinion, because, first of all, they look beautiful, and I really like two-handed sword units in general in this game. I think two-handed sword units are really cool, and their animations are really smooth. They just look really cool to me. That'll be a recurring theme as these videos go on, assuming I do them. But Dùnedain Blade Masters just look great. They got a cool Dùnedain look, two-handed sword. Other than that, their stats are phenomenal. For a tier 2 unit, these guys can absolutely wipe the floor with pretty much any human unit that's of the same tier. Definitely any orcs. I mean, if you compare these guys to the Iron Crown Warriors, which I actually don't... I should have a comparison, but I think these guys are better than the Iron Crown Warriors, who are sort of their like tier 2 competition. They are expensive. They are pretty tough to train. You know, it's far in between the training times. But these guys are so good. They're really good strike infantry. They're two-handed swords, so they're not armor piercing. But for a tier 2 unit, they're phenomenal, and they will do a ton of damage. And they have good defensive stats too. So they're just a phenomenal unit. They look good. Definitely an A tier. They're a great unit, and that is the same thing for the Dùnedain Armsmen. Dùnedain Armsmen, pretty much just like the more defensive version of the Dùnedain Blade Masters. They have a shield, one-handed sword. They also look great. I love the Dùnedain look. Again, really good stats. I think these guys have 20 defense, which is really high, and it's pretty nicely spread out between the 3 defensive stats, so it's not like they get destroyed by armor piercing. They have a shield, so they still stand up pretty well to arrows, and they have 9 attack, which is pretty damn good, if you excuse my language. They're pretty good for a tier 2 unit. Not pretty good. They're really good for a tier 2 unit. They will do a lot of damage. They'll hold the line pretty well. I mean, they're just really good, just like the Dùnedain Blade Masters, deserving the A rank, and they look very nice. Now, again, we got another A tier with the Dùnedain Cavalry. The Dùnedain Cavalry are just an amazing tier 2 cav unit. Devastating charge. Gandalf the Grey comes with them, and as soon as he gets there, starts running things over left and right. I mean, I don't know what else to say. They're not like a top of the top like upper echelon cav. We'll see one of those later, as you probably know. But the Dùnedain Cavalry are just really, really good. I mean, there's nothing else to say. They're just really good. Now we have the two sworn units, who are pretty much the upgraded version of the local units, you know, that you get. They're like the tier 2 of the local militia and the local archers. And the sworn units are significantly better, and the sworn infantry are again going to go in A rank. They are really good archers. They have a 5 missile attack. Basically, this is the same thing as the Cartellone Sentinels, except they're better because they come later in the game. Sworn infantry have a 5 missile attack. Cartellone Sentinels have 4. I don't know the exact melee stats of both the units, but I know that the sworn infantry have better melee stats. They look really nice with the Arnorian look. The Arnorian helmet is super cool. They're just really good. 5 missile attack on any unit is going to do damage at any point in the game. Like, that's a pretty solid missile attack. They're just good archers, good infantry. They look nice, and they're an upgrade over the Cartellone Sentinels, except you can get them in your outer regions. Good garrison troops. I could see you definitely having these guys in like a serious army because of how just generally quality they are. Solid A tier. They're a good unit. Now we come to the Sworn Cavalry, and I think the Sworn Cavalry are not as good. Again, they're sort of an upgrade over the Cartellone Riders. They're a little bit better, but in my opinion, they're not good enough to warrant taking these guys like a ton, especially when there's Dùnedain Cavalry that are a lot better. The Dùnedain Cavalry are really, really good, and the Sworn Horsemen are just okay. Like, they're I don't know. They have the same attack as the Cartellone Riders. They have a higher defense because of their shield. They might have a higher mass. But when you have the Dùnedain Cavalry, which of course you can't train as much everywhere, I still think that you would just rather have the Dùnedain Cavalry in every situation. But they're still like decent cav. You know, they are a cavalry unit and they have good stats. So I think they're still a C tier. I just think that there's nothing that really makes them stand out. And they're not a big enough upgrade over the Cartellone Riders to warrant a higher ranking. I think they're just alright. So they're C tier. Now, from here, the next many units are, I'm just warning you right now, the next 5 units are going to rank in S tier. And I'll talk about each of them, but I think this is no surprises. Sure, we'll put Aragorn at the front. We've got Grey Company, the Arthaud Knights, the Arthaud Royal Guard, the Steel Bowmen, and the Sons of Numenor. We'll start with Grey Company. First of all, Grey Company, Aragorn's unique bodyguard. They're relentless. There's like 60 of them. They have incredible melee stats. Did I say they're relentless? Yes, I did. But that's a big one. They're relentless. These guys are just amazing. There's nothing more to say about them. Amazing melee stats. They're relentless. They will carve through units. Aragorn hopefully won't die. Amazing, amazing general. He used to be cavalry, so he was like more OP because cavalry's broken. But I mean, as far as infantry bodyguards go, Grey Company or Balin's Guard are probably the best in the game. So S tier for Grey Company, and everyone likes Aragorn. Aragorn's my favorite character, so he's got to go in S tier. Arthaud Knights. These guys are just amazing, amazing, amazing sword of board units. Just straight upgrade over the Dùnedain Armsmen. They require Arthaud regions, and they're incredibly expensive, but their stats are just through the roof. They do a lot of damage. They are insanely beefy. They have the beautiful Arnorian plate. S tier. I mean, what more do I need to say? Now, Arthaud Royal Knights. People that have watched Galu's videos will know that these guys are in the probably giving a run for the best cavalry unit in the game with 2 other units. These guys are just so good. They are so powerful. They have 30 plus defense, really high mass, insanely high attack. I mean, this unit will crush everything that's not a pike, basically. They absolutely annihilate everything. So what, they're expensive. So what, they require Arthaud. They're one of the best cavalry units, and cavalry is OP in medieval too. So that means that the Arthaud Royal Knights are amazing. Amazing unit. I mean, there's really nothing more to say. Just cavalry having super high defense is what sets them apart from the other ones, so that they can cycle charge longer without losing more horses, and they have the high mass from the barded horse with the armor, so they will punch so deep into lines and not lose men fast at all. So that means you can keep using them over and over and over again, and a single charge can devastate an unprepared unit. There's nothing more to say other than that. This unit is so good. I mean, if I was ordering the tiers, they would be the best unit like that. Now the Steel Bowmen. Another amazing unit. They're really similar to the Dùnedain bodyguards, but of course they're a real unit. They're bigger. You know, it's not just 40 people. Except they don't have the AP two-handed axe, but I think that's a fine drawback for having a lot more men with armor-piercing arrows. Steel bows are just phenomenal. They have ranger stats, not quite the range of the rangers, but they have, I think, high or very high accuracy, quite high melee, quite high missile damage. I don't know the exact number, and armor piercing means that they're going to kill anything. I mean, even dwarves will just get knocked over by the steel bowmen, and then after they're done with their bows, they're phenomenal two-handed swordsmen in melee. Probably on par with the Dùnedain blade masters, if not better. And they look amazing. Those steel bows are sick. And Halbarad is a great general, so solid S tier for the steel bowmen once again. Now the Sons of Numenor. Now, I know I talked about how being an AOR unit might draw back for some units. Sons of Numenor I think, require a Numenos itself. So that definitely does hamper them a little bit, but if you look at their stats, they might be one of the best halberd units in the game. Their stats are absolutely ridiculous. They are halberds, not pikes, because they have the armor piercing, and their stats would be absolutely broken if they were pikes. But Sons of Numenor, I mean, it's just ridiculous. They have like 25 defense, a double-digit attack stat. I don't know the exact number, but it's armor piercing. I mean, they will hold the line forever, and they will kill a ton of stuff, because armor piercing with double-digit attack is phenomenal. And the halberd animation, while not as OP as the pikes, means that they will survive for a super long time, and they have high armor. They look beautiful in that Arnorian plate, by the way, if I didn't mention. Another thing about the Royal Knights, they look beautiful. But the Sons of Numenor, they will stand up to arrows because they're high armor values, and they will hold the line forever while also just mulching through enemies. There's nothing more to say. One of the best halberd units in the game. Only drawback for them is that they require a Numenos. But it's made up for because they look phenomenal. Now for the last unit, because of course we're ignoring the second Arthaud Knight. For the last unit, we have the Guard, or the Tharbad Royal Guard, I believe it's called. And they're a B tier, and I know that a lot of people are going to be like, wait, what? Like, they're amazing. Here's my problem with the Tharbad Royal Guard. They're really good pikes, but, and this is a big but, they're not like one of the best pike units in the game. They're not as good as the First Legion or the Moraquindi Protectors or the elite pike unit. I think it's Eldorenwe Tierno that Imladris gets. And they require Tharbad. So those, and like, if they were one of the best pike units in the game, I could definitely move them up to either S or A. But the fact that they're just a really good pike unit while also being limited to only one city means that they're just above average in my opinion. Like, absolutely train them whenever you can. They're the only pike unit you get, and they'll hold the line forever, and they're a great unit. But they're just like, the fact that that they have those drawbacks that I talked about means that I think they're just above average when you take everything into account. You're really not going to see them that much, and they aren't going to be like the absolute MVP unit of your army compared to something like the Royal Knights or the Sons of Numenor. So with that, we have completed our tier list. I will try to do this for every faction, like I said, with faction-specific units. Northern Dùnedain, of course, a really popular roster. They have a quality-focused roster, and they look really good. So they had a lot of stuff in the higher tiers, not as much in the lower tiers. But of course, if we do a faction with individual units that are not as good, like Misty Mountains, or Goblins of Moria, as they're now called, if we do a faction like that, it'll be a lot more like centered in the middle, lower tiers, just because quality-focused factions, of course, individual units are going to be more important. So, I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope that I didn't annoy the fan base too much. I know people really like Tharbad Royal Guards and the like. But, like I said, I'll post the tier list down below. You can do it yourself. Should be fun. I don't know, discuss it with me. I like discussing this kind of thing. I just wanted to share my opinion on it. And I'll be back hopefully soon with another tier list for the units. See you later.